Hi, I am Pastor Rachel Fetters, and I wanted to share with you some devotions for Holy Week. I am going to share from Silent Voices Sacred Lives. This is a selection of early Christian text or scripture that will be about Holy Week. So I'm going to start with Palm and Passion Sunday, which would have been the Sunday that just happened. And I'm going to read to you from Mark 14, verses 3 through 9. A woman without a name recognizes the Anointed One, and with great insight and generosity, she prepares his body for burial. While Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment of nard, and she broke open the jar and poured the ointment over his head. But some were there who said to one another in anger, "Why has the ointment been wasted in this way? For the ointment could have been sold, and the ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii, and the money given to the poor." And they scolded her. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has performed a good service for me. For you always have the poor with you. You can show kindness to them at any time, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body before its burial. Truly I tell you, wherever the good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." This story is told differently in the Gospels, and so in Matthew chapter 26, verses 6 through 13, you can also find a similar story. And in John 12, verses 1 through 8, you can find this same story. So the devotion for Monday of Holy Week comes from Matthew 27, verses 15 through 26. And this is where Pilate ignores the dream of his wife to his shame. Now, the festival of the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At the time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Who do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called Messiah?" For he realized it was out of jealousy that they handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream of him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask Barabbas to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of these two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus who is called Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, they handed him over to be crucified. That text is also in more places in the Gospels. I always encourage reading more than one of the same story because you get new experiences and different experiences from hearing the different authors. So the devotion for Tuesday of Holy Week comes from Luke chapter 23, verses 26 through 31. The compassion of the women is reciprocated by Jesus, for them and for their world. As they led Jesus away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, fall upon us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do this, when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry? And then our next reading is from is for the Wednesday of Holy Week. This comes from Mark 14, verses 66 through 72. Peter fears that a servant girl will unmask him, and so he denies Jesus. When Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she started at him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, "I do not know or understand what you are talking about." And he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed, and the servant girl, on seeing him, began to say to the bystanders, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. Then after a little while, the bystanders again said to Peter, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." But he began to curse, and he swore an oath. "I do not know the man you are talking about." At the moment, the cock crowed for the second time. When Peter remembered what Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times," and he broke down and wept. On Sunday, when we read this, I had a member of my congregation whisper over to his wife, "That's not right. That's not the right story." Well, he gave me the opportunity to highlight a good point that this same story is told in all 4 of our Gospels. So each of our Gospel writers, in Matthew 26, verses 69 through 75, in Luke 22, verses 54 through 62, in John 18, 15 through 18, and 25 through 27, this same story is told. And so the details change depending upon which Gospel you're reading. That doesn't make one of them right or wrong. It does mean that we have 4 different stories from 4 different experiences that we can read and listen to what speaks to us and our message the best. I hope that you are having a blessed Holy Week.